Kate Milifalcha, welcome to Irish Granny Helen. Welcome to Nathe of the Third Wish. Welcome, Nathe.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No,
And
we
thank
co-host, as you like to remind me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. And thank you so much for your article this month for the
Oh.
Third Wish magazine that's coming to you on Thursday.
Yes, pretend this is the same color as his, but there's... Oh my God, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. Like everybody else who reads tarot cards, I have these mountains of boxes.
Oh, I do. You don't want to see my desk.
Ridiculous. I just finished recording the other day with Denise, 4-hour psychics and psychos. And the case that we cover, you know, she does the astrology, I read the tarot cards. So we're looking at a number of different people. So I read cards on this person, this person, this person, this person. So I need that many different sets of cards. But then I do something like this and I need different sets of cards. And it's just, it rapidly becomes a nightmare. These are first world problems that we're having here today.
I hear that you need more cards.
No, that's actually not the problem. That's not the problem. I need more space. I need places to put things. Okay. So we're doing current events and we're trying to give it a little bit more of a global flavor because we have flogged United States politics to a fairly well. So I thought the most important thing that happened this week, I think, is the two huge earthquakes that hit Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Really bad, really, really bad. Bad for the people that live there, but indicative of other things. So let's talk about that. So last Wednesday, so almost a week ago already, isn't that remarkable? They had a 7.2 and then they had a 7.5. Oh my God. And 6.8 million people affected. Now the numbers are changing constantly.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll tell you what I got early this morning, and I'm sure it's different already. 770 buildings collapsed, twice that many at least damaged. They've had aftershocks ongoing, 4.2, 4.5, 5 point something, I think, just recently. Those are not small. And if you've got a building half collapsed, that might take it the rest of the way to the ground. Almost 1,500 people confirmed dead and thousands injured. They couldn't even name a number, which that's not good. And the hospitals are completely overwhelmed and they're setting up emergency hospital facilities in, where did I read, some weird place? Maybe it was a church. But I think this begs a question. So they had several days, almost a week, with them being on their own. They didn't have enough emergency response people. It requires a certain specialty training and specialty trained dogs to do search and rescue in a disaster like that.
Yeah.
That's different from going up to an avalanche or going to a sinking boat. It's a completely different set of skills. And they were left on their own. And a lot of places that are remote or isolated by rock spills and stuff, nobody could get there. But finally, there has been this huge international response that finally got there. And this made me ask the question. I'm not talking about this because it's depressing. I just think it actually shines a really positive light on the good in people, because the only reason there's been a delay is because of the logistics of trying to get together and get there. But global response, just teams from all over the world. And I think that says everything good about humanity and the human spirit. When things are bad, we do try to help each other. And so I was contemplating it quite a bit. And the question that I think we should ask that came to my mind was, do these sort of disasters actually provide us with an important lesson and an opportunity? Like we need to have, and that sounds crazy, but we need to have these sorts of challenges because we learn to respond together and to unite as global citizens. And we need to have that pointed out and reminded. We need to be reminded of that. So that's my question. Is that the purpose of these things, or at least one of the purposes? So big floods, earthquakes, fires, all that stuff. Yeah.
The issue I will have with this is that I'm sure the people feel very compassionate and want to help, but there's still politics going on. An example, Marrakesh had a terrible earthquake a few years ago, and for example, refused the help from France and other countries because
refuse the help. Why?
yes, because of political dynamics.
Yeah, well, this is really sad.
So yes, I feel like sometimes politics get in the way of those actions and support. I'll give you another example.
Okay.
It happens sometimes that in flying airplanes, you have a medical emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really recommended that the plane lands quickly if there's a real medical emergency.
Yeah.
And of course, the first thing is, well, is there land? A lot of time planes fly over the ocean, and so
right.
you can't. That's obviously the first problem. The second problem they have is that, is this a place that a plane that size can land? It might be a small airport, and a very large airplane can't possibly land safely on a small airport. So that also limits the opportunity. What also limits the opportunity is that there needs to be, obviously, it's not just landing, there needs to be a hospital that is able to deal with the type of medical emergency. So there's a lot of criteria, but another criteria is that the airplane is from a certain country, and the country where this airplane could land might not accept a plane from that country to land in their country. And so politics also do happen in those humanitarian situations. And that happens. I have connections, friends that are in aviation, and they tell me sometimes, no, they would not let us land because, we're countries at war or countries in tensions, etc. And so that's a reality. So yes, I agree with you that we generally speaking see solidarity, but politics still do play a part.
Well, now you just put a big gigantic pin in my balloon. I was trying so hard to be optimistic.
It's true.
It doesn't come naturally. You're right. You're absolutely right. But that actually solidifies my endless argument that politicians, no good.
Well, it's a small, I feel like some countries that might be having tensions, sometimes they actually said, okay, well, it's a humanitarian need and we're going to let that plane land and take care of it. Or a neighbor of a country, for example, India, Pakistan, there's been issues. I would expect that if there was some sort of earthquake, they would help each other, but I don't think it's guaranteed.
No, I know it's not guaranteed. Which brings to mind, let me say this. Tomorrow is July 1st. Am I right?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow is Canada Day. And I have a very special video for tomorrow for Canada Day. So It's coming up tomorrow morning. It'll be out. And what brings it to mind is that when 9/11 happened, the people of
Mm.
Canada were remarkable. They could not have been kinder, more generous, more concerned. The definition of good neighbors, the definition of charity, uh, charity comes from the roots that mean love.
Yeah.
The people of Canada, the government of Canada, shout out to them. They were wonderful. And politicians may forget, but American people have not forgotten. I will
No.
always, always think fondly of how they responded.
So back
So
to
the
our
question
yes.
is, do these things, okay, I'm getting very philosophical here. Do these things actually serve a purpose? They're just not random geological events. Do they serve a purpose, offering us the opportunity to exercise charity and service to others and compassion? Or are they just random geological events and they suck?
Well, I do feel like they're more likely random in their present challenges, but that doesn't mean that they don't allow people to come together, like the Pope here in this card or the Judgment. I don't think this is organized.
Organized by what? Do you mean like
Spiritual
spirits?
influence, yes.
Well, the Stoics would say it's not important what happens. Random good and bad things happen to random good and bad people. What's important is how you respond.
Of course.
Yeah. So in that sense, they're an opportunity. That's
Yes,
what I'm
of
trying to
course.
get to. So I get the Ten of Swords. This would be all the awful things that happen, like these, earthquakes. I get the Page of Cups. They are an opportunity to exhibit compassion and move down that path. And along with the Knight of Cups, which is more like an official government response, And over it all, I get the Queen of Coins, the Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles is maternal energy. It's about concern, compassion in a material sense, like taking care of each other. I love how my cards always say. Okay, that's that subject.
That's a nice one. Yep.
The next one I want to talk about is student loans. And I've been thinking a lot about this because I've been talking with people a lot about the purpose of education. So let me tell you what's going on. There was a pause. First of all, for people who don't live in the United States, and higher education in the United States is becoming increasingly less affordable for normal people, just everyday people. You have to be really rich or super smart and lucky, one or the other, to get into college, because we're talking $75,000, $80,000 a year for these fancy schools, right? During the pandemic, the government put a pause on student loan payments. So if you owed the government money during the pandemic for your loans, you didn't have to make the monthly payments, trying to help people out because work was curtailed so much. And that went on for about 3 years because the combination of the pandemic and then I think Biden forgave some of those payments, but then it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, oh, well, we don't want to be kind. We went to Ivy League schools, but who cares about the rest of you? That's not quite how they put it. But so people during the pandemic used the opportunity of not having to make those payments. They used that opportunity to take that money that otherwise would have gone to loans, which is hundreds of dollars a month, and used it to get out of a hole. They got better housing, or they were able to purchase a car. They defined it as breathing room. It gave them some
Mm.
relief. But now we're all back in it, and they have to be paying again. But here's the problem. Now they've got the student loan to start paying on again, and they have whatever it is they used that money to get themselves involved in, like a better apartment that costs more money, or a car payment, or whatever. So now they have two debts or three debts where they
Yeah.
only had the one. So 1/5 right now, 1/5 of people who have student loans are more than 90 days late on the payments. And the number of people, this shocked me. The number of people over 60 years old with student loan debt is 6 times higher today than it was in
Wow.
2004. Now, part of that, I'm sure, is demographics of the baby boomers, and yes, but that's just mind blowing. So that got me to thinking, is it worth it to go into that kind of debt for a degree? What's the purpose of higher education? Do we regard higher education only valuable if it makes you marketable for a job? Or do we value knowledge for knowledge's sake? Is an educated populace a, a better off populace? Or do we not care about that? And so my question is, they've done these studies that people who go on to school, what it really provides them with is the ability of critical thinking, and it does create intellectual growth and curiosity. It gives you a broader worldview. And so my question is, should education be free? And what's the purpose of education?
One thing that I would mention is I have met a lot of either younger people, like in 20s, 30s, or their parents, who have either started a business, not gone education, started their own business, or even done a creator's job, like a YouTube channel or a Twitch, or as some sort of creator. And some of them are very, very, very successful. They make more working for themselves as if they were having an education and working for a company. That puzzles me.
Well, let me ask you what then. Do you mean that education is solely for the purpose of getting a job?
Well, I'm not suggesting that, but at that age, there's the belief that, I think it's fair to say that when you're at that age, you want to set yourself, have a home, possibly have a family, and so making money is a topic. And there was this belief that education is the key to get there. It's not the only purpose, but it's a key to get there. And it appears nowadays that it's not the only key.
I don't think it's ever really changed, like the reality of gaining skills, being educated, getting a job. I think the variable that has changed the balance of everything is the loss of jobs and the increase in the cost of living and the inability of wages to keep up with that. When you combine all of those things, people who want to start their own business without training of some sort or a law degree or whatever, um they have fewer opportunities, and many of those opportunities fail because of the economy and the exigencies of the economy. But uh, people who go to college can no longer depend on an education being an entree into the business world,
Mhm, mhm.
because the business world has fewer opportunities, fewer internships, fewer entry level positions. So if you try to do your own business without an education, you're at the mercy of a system that's falling apart. If you decide to go to college thinking that's going to get your foot in the door for employment, you're at the mercy of a system that's falling apart. And we are relegating the notion of education as some sort of ticket to employment.
And that's why some people are breaking through those um, patterns or old frameworks. And yes, I know I have friends that said, well, my child is, I know too, recently, that's why I mention it, plays video game on YouTube and makes a living.
For now.
Well, I don't disagree, but that is symptomatic of people who said, I'm not going to go into debt. I don't want to spend all this. I'm going to take care of myself right here, right now.
Yeah, I do think that that's true. I'm not disagreeing with you about that. I do think it's kind of a clear-eyed evaluation of the cost of education and the desire to have immediate foot in the door of business and earning. And I mean, I understand that. But my question is, what about education for its own sake? What about education for expanding your horizons and introducing you to the past and to the world and to ideas and helping you develop the skills that you can carry with you the rest of your life? Educational skills, mental connections.
I'm all for educations, but I don't, but it's like Maslow's pyramid. You can go higher in the pyramid if you have a roof over your shoulder, if you're not hungry.
Meeting needs, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
But look at us talking about Maslow's pyramid, and we both knew what we meant because we went to college. I think that actually you're supporting my argument. How do you elevate your relationship with the world and reality when the only thing that, well, not the only thing, but the central thing in your frame of reference is subsistence? I would argue that education is inherently important in and of itself, not for the paycheck that it may or may not provide. And I don't believe it should cost anything. I think education
No,
should be free. I don't understand why they have to charge what they're charging. What they're doing is they're creating a kind of caste system, a hierarchy of people
an
who can,
elite.
yeah, who can afford to buy into the fancy
Yeah.
schools that make business connections and political connections.
But another argument I feel could be that there's never been as much free access to education as today. Two examples. We're on a platform called YouTube. You can learn a lot on YouTube. There's
Mhm,
history information, geography, philosophy. I mean,
mhm.
like more than you have time for. Number one, you have universities that provide their whole academic systems, courses, not everything, but tons of classes and courses for free. MIT being one.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will push back on that. I went online, and I don't know if you're the one who recommended it. Somebody recommended MIT and Harvard. They have classes that are available online for free. Well, they do. If you're interested in the technology of business computers, or how to
It's
run
not
a balance
everything,
sheet or something, but that's not education by my definition. That's providing skill instructions. I'm talking about expanding your horizons, learning about history, learning about literature, learning about philosophy, learning about what other people have done in the world.
but would you agree that if you learn about history, geography, philosophy, there are amazing material on
Sure,
YouTube.
you can learn how to fix your own toilet too. Yes, my
But
husband does
I've
that.
watched Portuguese history class,
Language
and I
lessons.
mean,
Yes.
so I'm a little bit unsure how to respond to this, because I don't disagree with what you said, but I feel that compared to 15 years ago, there's more access, free
Yeah.
access.
Yeah, I agree. Before I forget, let me recommend a channel. Just what we're talking about. There's a channel called the ASMR Historian. And ASMR, I don't know what it stands for, but it's something sensory,
Yeah.
right? I don't care about that. It's the historian part. This is a guy who researches and narrates history things. Do not think it's boring. It's fascinating. And you can watch what he's doing, and he moves cards around and dice around. You just see his hands on it. I listen to it with my eyes shut, so I don't really care what you're looking at. But the auditory part of it is absolutely fascinating, very educational, very entertaining. Just a resource. So anybody who's interested, I strongly recommend it. Also, he has, oh, are you there?
Yeah, I just escaped for a second. So I am really confused,
Sorry.
because I
Pardon?
oh, I know. I On one hand, it got more expensive. On the other hand, it got more free. I don't know how to answer this.
Well, I would argue that, first of all, you have to be motivated to access that sort of thing on the internet. Next, I would say it's not the same as being in a group of people and having debates, having
True,
conversations,
you're not
being
tutored. You're not.
right,
Yes, that's true.
and being required to provide written opinions about
Mhm.
things.
True.
I think that's really important. Um, it's slightly different, but it's certainly a good beginning. It doesn't get quite into the depth that a class with an expert, but certainly it's a beginning. Um, but this still begs the question: where are our values? What do we value? Do we value only what provides us with the ability to make money? Do we value knowledge?
I know.
And it seems like almost mutually
Yes,
exclusive, right?
it is. I feel like there's a lot of we're overwhelmed with information and knowledge. Overwhelmed by information. But the true educational process that has a certain value, and you don't really find that everywhere. That, I think, is what you're talking about. The whole process of learning, using, practicing, use critical thinking, debating. I mean, that requires someone to help you. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between formal education and being an autodidact. When you're an autodidact, you
Mm.
never know for sure if you've received every possible bit of information and opinion about a topic,
Yes.
because you're digging it out yourself. You have to know where to look. You may overlook something. So there's a bit of a difference, but You never stop. You should never stop learning in your life. If you stop learning, I think you become brain dead. I think it's really important to continue to have an interest in things. Having said that, there's a lot of garbage on, you know, the internet.
Well, yeah, there's no safeguards.
Well, by garbage, I mean wasted time. I waste
Right.
time. I should be doing a lot of other things. I'll put on YouTube on my television late at night. And my excuse is it's the only time in the day when I indulge in that kind of mind dead sort of thing, brain dead sort of thing. But I'll watch an hour or two of just tripe, just stupid, not bad, just stupid stuff.
CD.
Yeah,
Yes,
time
yes.
wasting stuff. So I'll listen to people. There are channels that show you other people that have recorded their opinions about things, of the economy or housing or whatever. And they're amateur people. They're just people like you and like me. They're not experts. They're not providing knowledge. They're providing emotional, personal opinion. And I'll just listen to them rant and rave and rant and rave and rant and rave. And it's not beneficial. I don't think it's an escape. It does provide.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah.
outlet. Yes, yes.
But you're right. You can learn. I have learned a lot from seeking topics on YouTube. But then you have to use discernment because you never know where the information's coming from.
And then you have education and training. Those are not the same thing.
That's correct. And I think there's a really positive argument to be made for vocational training, technical schools. I think whoever has the desire for that should have the opportunity. And I think whoever wants to pursue a more academic route should have the opportunity. And I don't think that these things should be money making for somebody else, because I think they're a crucial part of the foundation of society. We need people who know how to fix plumbing and fix electrical work. We need people who understand, I don't know, the history of World War One. I mean, I can't, whatever. We need all of those people to have an enriched, well-rounded society. And we just are constantly ignoring one for the other, and then ignoring but sadly, what eventually always becomes the deciding factor is money.
I had a teacher who always explained the difference between education and training, saying, do you want your children to go to sex education or sex training? Probably just education.
That's very good. I like that. But I think this is a big, I think it's unrecognized, really, but it's a big debate in the American culture right now. What do we value? Do we value education? A lot of people don't.
There's also the idea that governments believe that if people are not educated, it's easier to manage the people in a population that doesn't have critical thinking and is not as educated. People will not be asking why this, why that, and vote for candidates that just tell them what they want to hear. I think that's the connection point.
And having some sort of critical thinking education doesn't guarantee anything either. Lately,
No.
I've been horrified to realize that I've been duped about a number of things, and like measurably, provably duped about things.
Also, I've been in a situation, it was kind of a group exercise in a working environment, in a large group, and we had to solve a problem. It was some sort of exercise, and it was using like geometry and figures and things like that. And I have to say, the one person that I was not able to help the group was the most educated, who had a PhD in math or geometry, had the highest education, but didn't really have any practical thinking.
Yeah, well,
And
they're not mute. They're
yeah,
they're
and so
sometimes mutually. Yeah,
you need practical, you need
yeah.
the education, but also how to use the education in a practical setting.
Well, everybody has weaknesses and strengths. And
Yes,
so you're likely, as you get into your 20s, you're likely to start recognizing that and gravitate towards your interests.
yeah,
And a lot of times, I think people are blocked from pursuing their interests because they have to make a living, or vice versa, because they're pursuing
yes,
their interests, they can't make a living. So you hear about graduate students who are living in poverty. Well, like in France, the students who
yes,
couldn't afford to eat, right?
that's
uh,
true.
because they're pursuing what they like to do. They may have been better able to support themselves on a daily basis financially if they'd done something else. Should they be forced to make that decision?
No,
I don't think everybody is going to say, "Oh, to hell with it, I'm going to go to college." Given the choice, if nothing was involved money, if it was all free, I don't think you would find everybody rushing to philosophy class. That's not going to happen. It's
well,
going to People will sort themselves out according to their interests and their strengths. But we're in a position right now where people are being told, if you do this, not everybody wants to go to college. If you do this, you'll be employable. That's what everyone was told. I used to tell my girls like
yeah,
15, 20 years ago, a college degree is no guarantee.
no.
But for a woman, if you don't have one, it's a guarantee of problems. And I think that was really true 15, 20 years ago. Now I don't know what to think. I mean, it's
I
bad.
believe, I mean, that's a very maybe progressive point of view, but honestly, I believe that, housing should be a right and should be in the Constitution. I believe that being fed, having enough to eat should be a right in the Constitution. I do feel like the right to education should be a constitutional right, because
Right.
those are all, I mean, when you
Food,
think about it,
shelter, health
like
care.
that, what if society doesn't provide that? What does it provide?
Well, it's the Declaration of Independence talks about uh, inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the Enlightenment values of
Yeah, that's
natural
true.
law, right? We all need shelter and food and health care and education. And you should have the freedom and the ability to indulge yourself in learning how to play the drums if that's what you want. That's what you want to do. But we have allowed, you're not going to like this, we have allowed capitalism and corporations to become our authorities and our gods, and they have taken over. And I told you you wouldn't like it.
I don't fully agree. I have a different view
You
that
know,
I'm not against capitalism as long as the wealth that is created is shared and split and everyone can benefit from it.
if you say trickle down theory, I'm going to get mad.
Well, this is not trickle down. This is a model where we understand that together we can create more by the power of being together. And so it is fair that, we all get benefit, particularly those who are struggling the most.
I agree with you, and I think there's a word for that. And I'm not affiliated with anything, but I think that's called Christianity. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Really?
mean, so that's not a complete foreign idea. But
No.
personally, I feel that I have nothing against creating value as a society. It's just what do you do with this value?
Right. And I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm embittered by the history of what they've done.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. I can't, I hold a
Yes,
grudge, you know?
that's true. I don't, but I still hope for a model that, can allows us to get to make more, to produce more in a way that it's done well, that doesn't kill people's back, that is smart, and it's not trickle down. It's actually organized in a way that it provides the base to everyone. There's enough money.
Hmm. I think people
Not
look,
that there's not enough money.
oh,
There's
there's more than
enough
enough.
money.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, People look back on the post-war era, the late 40s, early 50s, as this halcyon period of time where everything was so good, and let's go back to those values. Well, okay, the rich paid 90% in taxes. That's why it was so,
I
and it
mean,
was so good for whom, you know?
well, that's the
Let's,
whole, make it great again.
yeah, but not in the way that they understand, right?
No.
You have to understand that the rich were not dodging their tax responsibilities. They are paying 90% over $1 million that they earned. They're paying 90% in taxes for the common good. But then how great was it for women and minorities of all sorts? I mean, we could talk about that till the cows come home. Yeah. So anyway, that's student loans. What do we got off on that? What are we asking? We're asking, well, my real question is, why isn't education free? Let's ask that. Why isn't education free? I think we already know the answer, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, first of all, people educated argue more. Five of
Oh.
Swords. Also, Seven of Cups is the whole organized system and delusion that is made to believe that, it's not reachable, it costs that much money. And then, of course, Seven of Pentacles, it has turned into a business.
Yeah.
It has.
Well, no, I agree with you 100%. I mean, what did I say about capitalism? I agree with you entirely. So look at this. You're going to laugh. I got the Ace of Pentacles.
Yeah.
I got the Two of Pentacles. Then I got the Three of Cups reversed. It's just been destroyed by the pursuit of profit. This is what's needed. I got the King of Cups and the Three of Wands. I think we need to move forward into the future with more compassion for people who want to pursue knowledge. We're devaluing things and what's the word I want? Pursuing, making primary money,
Uh-huh.
profit. But that's the root of all problems. I think it's called the root of all evil. Is that... Okay, what have I got? I got more. Okay, how are we doing for time?
We can probably get maybe 2-3 topics.
Okay, well, let's do this quickly. Wikipedia. I think we're all familiar with Wikipedia,
Yes.
the online kind of a encyclopedia, sort of. And it's people add things to it all the time. It's
Yes.
edited constantly by ordinary people, and it began in 2001. And the guy who calls himself the ex-founder quit. He left because he was really critical of who was on the board making decisions, who was editing, who was allowed to edit, because you can edit, but then there's a board that decides, is that okay or is that not
To
okay?
review of a reviewing board.
Right. Yeah. His name is Larry Sanger. And he thought that the board was too left wing and it was trying to influence the public by doing that. So he started to try to influence the policies of the board, and so they parted ways. He's advocating now. He's still very critical, and this article that I read was about him being critical, and he wants more intellectual diversity in Wikipedia. I would say I agree. I've looked things up on Wikipedia just to get a beginning of some information. And I'll give you a concrete example. When I first started learning about Gnosticism, the description of Gnosticism in Wikipedia is that it was a heretical Christian movement.
Wow.
Now, okay, the early Catholic Church, the early Christian Church, synonymous, did regard them as heretics. Gnosticism's been around a very long time, and it exists in almost all religions. So what are they talking about? So they're very limited. You have to really be careful. You can't depend on them for a full picture, a full amount of information. He calls Wikipedia now establishment propaganda. And people are allowed to edit it anonymously. And that can cause problems because here's an example. I'm almost afraid to talk about this group. They go after people. The Church of Scientology was anonymously, aggressively rewriting any articles that were critical of the church or L. Ron Hubbard. And that got discovered by the board. They looked at IP addresses and they were able to link them all back to Scientology, and they blocked them because they don't want people doing that. They were editing, like taking out information that was critical. So who cares about Wikipedia? There's a bigger issue at hand, which is freedom of the press. And how do we know that what we're being told is true? Because freedom of the press means you get to print what you want to print. So long as you're not advocating something really bad, you get to print. I mean, I can't even say it, we'll get in trouble. So there are two issues here. Should people be allowed to go ahead and just add to this, like the Church of Scientology, edit, add, that shapes the narrative? And or what about truth? Who defines the truth? Whose truth? And that sounds crazy because true is true and false is false. But let's put it this way: whose perspective do we go along with? Because in that example, Scientology was trying to direct the narrative in a certain way, and
I always say, you look at an object, you see this person sees this part, this person sees this part, this person sees this part, this person sees this part. It's the same object.
Correct. It's like the blind men and the elephant. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. But so the larger question is, how do we get a full picture?
Well, I thought that was those boards of review boards were supposed to do. I personally believe that, generally speaking, people should be able to edit. That's the whole power of putting this to the public. And then there should be a review boards that has balanced point of view, that integrate. And if some opinions are very unique, then say, well, some people, this group believe that, but they're the only one to believe that.
Well, that's okay to present opposing opinions.
Yes.
But what's happening is they're deleting opinions they don't agree with and then putting their opinions.
No, but that should not be able. They should only be adding.
And his argument is that the board is doing the same thing. The board is reviewing it and saying, no, I don't agree with that. So let's
Well,
take
the
that
board
out.
should be a balanced body of
Yeah, and
knowledge.
apparently that's the issue. That's the issue.
I mean,
that it's not. Everybody has an agenda. But the real question is, what about truth? How do we know truth when it's staring us in the face? How do we develop discernment?
well, if you're a light worker, truth resonates a certain way, information resonates a different way.
Like I said, I've been fooled.
I've been fooled.
So how do we develop our discernment better?
Well, back to education. You want to restart the discussion we had half an hour ago?
I have a funny feeling that conversation is not over. We'll be talking about that again. Just let's ask, how do we develop discernment? Is that a good question?
Mhm. Well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. First of all, Page of Cups, it starts at a young age.
Yeah.
And then the Hierophant, it requires a mentor or a guide, people that are helping us through this process. Educators would be one.
I got interesting cards. Keep going.
And then the Chariot, I feel like this is something that he's constantly in motion and faster, because we're in a world where there's more and more technology,
Change.
AI.
Change.
So we human will always be behind.
I think in order to have discernment, you have to use it. You have to not be gullible and question everything. So I kind of got something a little bit similar. The Wheel of Fortune, things are constantly changing. You have to stay on top of things. The Three of Wands, you have to look into the future. You have to not be stuck, resistant to that everything changes constantly. Don't be like me. Six of Pentacles, I think, have to take into consideration the welfare of other people. That's really important. You have to ask yourself, in this particular situation, who suffers and who gains?
Yes.
That's always really important. And then I got the Eight of Cups, which I guess is discernment itself. It's like looking at all the facets of a situation and deciding which one is the one that you feel is the correct one. And then you're going to feel like this poor little cat. Okay, this next topic that I have, my final topic, I'm really excited about. I think this is such an interesting topic. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of information first. So bear with me. It's not long. So this is the debate between handwriting and typing. And there are studies. So let me tell you about it. And I'm going to need my glasses. So these studies have discovered that handwriting is really important. Who knew? It's one of the most complex motor skills that the brain will ever be involved in. It's been proven that it improves your memory. It helps with word recall. Because of what it does for little children, when you learn to handwrite, you're tracing letters, right? That it actually helps literacy. It makes them learn how to read sooner and better. It helps their comprehension. It gives better conceptual understanding of things. And it mentioned in this article I read that there are famous writers, famous modern writers, young people, who draft their writing by hand. They don't use a computer. The final thing, yes, but they don't use a computer when they're working on their writing. Jennifer Egan, she's a big shot, big seller, and Neil Gaiman, who's very, very famous, and I don't like his books, but he's very famous. But why is this? It's because writing is really complex, much more complex than you would think. It forces all these different parts of the brain, all these different systems to work together. You need fine motor skills, you need large motor skills, you need I can't read my handwriting. Visual skills. They analyze typing, and it takes 3 moves, and they're similar moves. It didn't say what those moves were. I don't know, picking up your finger, putting it down. I don't know, but it is far less sophisticated and complex. It takes way more brain power, challenges your brain to build connections because you're crossing communication with different areas of the brain. Handwriting syncs those areas that are crucial to memory and are associated with learning and retaining the learning. None of that happens with typing. Handwriting is neurobiologically richer, is how it's explained. It associates the body and motor movement with seeing and hearing and thinking, and every time you do that, you're adding to the process. Today, now, with children learning on computers before they even learn to read and write, they're learning things too easily, and it's becoming more difficult for them to actually set that aside and learn how to write their letters. We're talking pre-literate children, that are learning their ABCs. And actually, the ability to write letters predicts all the way down the road how well you will read, how well you will comprehend, even into college age, and math skills. They're dependent on learning how to write. So it's crucial to reading, crucial to math. Part of it is because it slows you down and it lets you process what it is you're reading about. So the question is, are we learning? Are we losing something really valuable here in our obsession with technology, our quest for speed and ease? Are we doing a disservice? And would it behoove us all to go back to using a paper and pen? And I'll say this, because you know what my answer is going to be, but we'll see what the card said. But I'll say this. There are a lot of private schools now that are taking out the devices and returning to paper and pen because of these studies and having better outcomes.
I feel that my answer will be more in the middle, where I would say we and children and teenagers, we're used to click with computer, just click. That's everything is in one click, one. And I feel like we need to click, think, click, think, click, think. As long as you have time to think between clicks, that's fine. But if you're just clicking away, typing away with no thinking in between, then that's the problem. With the handwriting, you're giving time to think. That's the only issue there is with typing.
No, I'm respectfully disagree. What they said is the actual physical moving in the shape of the letters, that motor skill is creating connections in your brain with your eyes and and with your thinking processes and with the motor skill. And that's what's missing from typing. You're not doing this, and those connections are never made. You're just clicking, and you can click and wait 6 hours, but you're still not doing the motor skill. No, I'm just trying to make a point, that there's actually something about the physicality of writing that enhances comprehension, math skills, retention. The brain is really complex.
That's true. I mean, I'm
So
not
interesting.
disputing,
And I would not dispute,
but you know,
use your devices, but don't do it instead of writing. Do it together.
I feel like there's different. We all have different learning skills.
Styles,
Some
yeah.
people styles. Thank you. Not skills, but styles. Some people are visual. Some people are audio. Some people they need to practice what they do. So I think it really depends on the person.
Well, I only know what I read. And the study that they did, collected data, and they came to generalized conclusions. So I don't know if they took learning styles into consideration, but in general, what they found was that lose handwriting at your own risk because it provides growth, neurological growth that we don't.
Is there anyone that suggests that young people shouldn't handwrite?
Well, they're not teaching it. They're not doing it in school anymore. My grandchildren don't know how to.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where I
No,
couldn't
they're not teaching
understand
it at
this.
all.
I
Yeah.
thought it was still. So my bad. I
No,
didn't know that.
No, they're starting them out on computers. They're using
Oh, they
computers for
are.
tests. Oh yeah, they're using.
So how
computers.
do people know to handwrite then?
They barely don't. They hardly know. They interviewed a bunch of high school students, and they couldn't even print letters. They could not look at a simple sentence in printed form. They didn't know what the letters were. They didn't know how to sound them out. But it's really shocking. Yeah, it's shocking. Now, granted, that's not exactly a large population of people to be looking at, one bunch of kids. But I see it with my own grandchildren, and they're different school levels. They go to really good schools. Now they go to public schools. So nobody's paying a lot of money for extra, they're just public schools. But where they live, there's a particular importance given to learning, and they still rely heavily on computers. I mean, it's really disturbing. However, they have learned how to write. One of them is learning cursive, but she's in this fancy program and it's accelerated, and this is just special. This is not every kid.
I feel like learning languages, particularly like a foreign language, how do you do that by typing? That doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, well, you don't have to convince me. I agree. Okay, so let's quickly ask the question, are we doing a disservice? Are we losing something we're not going to be able to get back? Because these children are going to become adults, and those brain connections will not have been made.
It's a real issue. I got the devil.
Wow.
The Wheel of Fortune, it's going to change.
Are you using the same deck I'm using? That Wheel of Fortune looks very much like my Wheel of Fortune did.
Yeah, there's going to be some pushback. Ten of Swords, a big change is, I feel like
Seven of Wands.
Techniques are going to be reviewed. Yeah, I think this is all going to be. But I mean,
Six of Cups going back to the olden days. This is so true of education, though. It has fads, it has styles, and they'll try something new and they'll get all excited about it, and they use the children as guinea pigs, and in a couple of years they go, oh, our mistake. Then they go back to the old ways.
But with AI, which we're not opening as a debate here, but that's also changing everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know you have to go, so I have one little tiny thing. This is my lighthearted thing at the end. And this is about karma. You know what they say karma is? Starts with the B, rhymes with this. Okay, listen to this story. This is great. So the cops are driving down a road. This is in Alabama, country road. And they see a truck pulled over to the side of the road. The tailgate's down, the engine's running. There's nobody around. So they start looking around, and it's a wooded, rural road, not well traveled. They start looking around, and they go into the woods a little bit because they see drag marks from the tailgate, drag marks into the woods. And they finally come upon 2 dead bodies.
Oh.
A 44-year-old guy who had a heart attack while trying to hide the body of his 47-year-old
Oh my
girlfriend that
God.
he'd strangled. Boy, talk about
Karmic.
instant karma.
Karmic.
He was only 44.
Instant karmic destiny.
Yeah. Isn't that unreal? So my question is karma actually a B?
Well,
Definitely.
or can be a positive thing too.
Oh, I know, it's a joke.
Oh, okay.
No, this is a real story, though.
Oh,
This is,
I know it
you know,
is.
it's a
Yes,
real
yes.
story, but it's unbelievable, isn't it?
I know.
That'd make a great mystery book. You know. Okay, I think we've covered every possible topic today. It's hilarious. Thank you, Nate. Thank you so much.
For having me. See you next time.
Kidding? It's always a pleasure. And thanks everybody for joining us.
For watching. Yeah.
And check out that video tomorrow about Canada, because I think you might be surprised. It's really interesting. I have a guest and we hit all the high points. So, Slanga foil, Slancha.
Bye.